Thank you for joining. Yes, I take PayPal. How are you doing, Nene? Um, I don't know how to type it in here, but my PayPal is um I think it's Amanda Burgess. So Amanda AMANDA, then BURGESS 78 at Gmail. Yeah, he was saying hey to you, girl. Okay. Both of them are a trip. A whole hot mess. They are funny. Well, while you're doing that, I'll start doing a collective. Higher soul spirit. I'm not sure if I have glasses on. It's Amanda Johnson. Is it? Well, so I can't. It's so old. It might be under my married name, Amanda Burgess, but it's Amanda Johnson. Let me see. No, it's under Amanda Burgess. I don't know why it's got me signed out. Oh, you got it. Okay. I don't know. Hold on a second. Oh, you got it. Okay. I don't know. Hold on a second. I don't know. Hold on a second. Okay, so did you send 1111? For some reason, it's not showing in the activity, but I think it's in the balance. Ooh, child. Thank you. Thank you for the heart me. Hey, Ashley. Thank you. Okay, Nene. Do you have I don't see it though. Child, I don't use hey Ashley. I don't use PayPal enough. Okay, so you weren't able to find it. Now, were you talking about for the full reading, like the private reading, like the full reading? Oh, child. I really do need to know how to navigate this better because I do want to be able to put like comments in. Oh, maybe that's it. And if you want to wait, that's fine. I need to change my name because I am no longer married. And I legally changed my name back, so I don't want no parts of that last name. Thank you for the gifts. Right. I had to reclaim my name. I'm looking forward to having a new name. Okay. You're welcome. Higher Soul Spirit, what does the collective need to know? I feel like Spirit is telling us to really not overthink situations. Um, because I feel like a lot of us who are old souls who have lived many lifetimes, um, and we've had a lot of hard times in each lifetime. And so, subconsciously, those memories are still there. And so sometimes, like in this lifetime, we can get triggered by something or, like a person or an event. and not really be fully cognizant of why we're getting triggered by it. And so I like Reverend Ike. Reverend Ike is an old school Christian pastor from New York, and I really think he coined the term um beat to the gods. You love him too. Okay, you too, Nene. I really think he coined the term like face beat to the gods. Truly, because I heard him say that one time, and I was like, "Excuse me, Reverend Ike." And I was listening to him today, and he was talking about the masculine and feminine, and like the masculine and feminine parts of our brain. So like the masculine part is the logic, and the feminine part, so the conscious is masculine, the feminine is the subconscious. And it makes so much sense because like the feminine is associated with darkness, with like moon energy, with shadows, with stop, stop, with things that are hidden. Yeah, I saw you actually say you love it too. And Spirit, what are you trying to say about that? And so, okay, so what they're basically saying is that because the subconscious is like our I want to say autonomic system, but it's basically like, because I've talked about before how um your body automatically knows how to run, it knows how to regulate itself, it knows how to balance your blood pressure, beat your heart, pump the blood, your lungs expanding and contracting, taking in oxygen. Your body automatically knows how to um, basically fertilize and develop a human vessel. And so that's why the feminine is subconscious, because all of those things run automatically through spirit. And that's what makes the feminine so powerful and so miraculous, if you will. Like every human vessel is a miracle, but when you think about how that organ, like I was saying previously, gets constant downloads from spirit, and basically it's a portal. It so like spirit was telling me that our birth chart is the way it is because at the precise moment that your vessel crosses the barrier of your mother's womb, that is when the constellations at that moment enter your vessel. So you are basically, you know, without being said, cosmic and intricately connected to all of the interworkings of the universe. And when traditional religion and when people in general try to hide those aspects of us, that is essentially the veil. And so um piercing the veil is I'm trying trying to see what they're saying about piercing the veil. So I feel like they're saying there's a process of calling your power back to you from past lifetimes. And so your energy has a different configuration each lifetime. And it's basically what they're saying is that, like, when the constellations align to that particular energy from your past life, and you go through something to help you remember and to help to like integrate that part of you, that is a part of piercing the veil. And it happens over and over and over again. And like every time you have, so basically when, like, say you were a farmer in a previous lifetime and your birth chart read in, I'm just going to say configuration A. So every time the constellations mirror your configuration A from that past lifetime, you experience the opportunity for awakening. So you're going to be placed in a position where you now have the opportunity to do something to reclaim your power from that lifetime. So, for instance, on the day that you have to make a decision about like a love interest, or like say you're dating someone and this person is kind of resembling the same energy that you've been dealing with, and it is something that is kind of like a recurring issue. When you see the signs and say, I'm done with that type of energy, I'm choosing myself, I wish you well, or you don't even have to have a conversation. Just be gone. Like the next time that person goes to text you, it's gonna not be delivered. And so each time that like that at that precise moment, the constellations are aligned with something from your past lifetimes. And that is how you like pierce the veil so that that part of you can then enter your energy in this lifetime. Right, blocked. And you said, hooray. Oh my God. That's why I feel so damn good. Exactly. You said, come on, universe. Uh-huh. I'm glad I just said confirmations, yeah. Cause um there's so many different things. Um and so I feel like spirit is saying that um when a masculine is able to um connect with his subconscious, his the feminine part of him, that is what helps him to awaken. That's what helps him to remember who he is. That's what helps him to ascend, is what I'm hearing. It also helps to become more balanced. And so that's why there's so many. And so like the reason why women are also powerful is because that feminine portion is like the unseen portion of source, if that makes any sense. And so that's like the mystery, the mysticism, the miracles, the magic. And so that's basically when you are operating from your spiritual gifts and your magic and your supernatural cosmic abilities, you are operating from your subconscious mind. So, like all of the conscious aspects of the world that make us this human vessel is the masculine portion. And that, and so because that is the reason why the feminine has been so suppressed. And that is the reason why we have, and like my spirit team always be having me rhyme and shit. But they're saying that's why we have so much unrest in the world, because people are not tapping into their subconscious. They're not tapping into the feminine side of them. They're just basically residing in like the masculine energy of themselves, and there's an extreme imbalance. And there's a lot of you know born females who are operating from their masculine. And so that's where that competitive nature comes from. That I got that drive. I got to get ahead. I have to do this. I have to take action. And I'm not saying not to take action, because you have to, like, faith without works. We know the saying. And that's a real thing. So you do have to take action. But when you're operating more from your feminine, for that intuition, for that. So there's some people are on autopilot from the conscious mind, and some people are on autopilot from the subconscious mind. So, like, the functions of the body are always on autopilot from the subconscious. But if you, like, spirit is giving the example of like hemi syncing your brain, so that there's like an analytical side and then a reasoning side or something like that. And when you hemi sync the brain, that creates balance, and it gives you access to that subconscious autopilot. So it's like where you are constantly downloading and channeling information, and it's on autopilot. And so, like, for me, as an example, I'm channeling information so much that I can have a conversation with someone and I'll be hitting on all the points that they're thinking, or I'll be hitting on all the points of a conversation that they had about me with someone else. So, like, that's how you become source, basically, because source is all knowing, all seeing, all hearing. And when you're having a conversation with someone and you're constantly channeling and you don't even know that you're channeling, you're basically operating on autopilot from your feminine subconscious mind. It fucks people up because they just be looking like, did this bitch like hear my conversation? I mean, some people might actually be like, how did you know that? you know, um, But, so you're constantly reading energy, you're constantly getting messages. And I had no idea I was even doing that. You said, thank you for the gifts. You said, you should not stop. It feels, no, we are preserved. Someone said, tap into the universe. I said, oh, okay, Nene, the chosen one. You said, who is the discovery of my homie pal? Yeah. Thank you. So yeah, like I didn't realize that I was doing that until I was sitting at a table with several spiritualists, and like one of them was channeling information. Like, so two of them were channeling information like consciously, and I was sitting there and I wasn't really saying anything. And then when I did say something, my mentor was like, did you just hear that? And I was like, hear what? She said, you said verbatim exactly what I just heard. And I was just like, I didn't hear that. So that's kind of how that works, where you're just like, and that's why I stopped beating myself up for like feeling like I said the wrong thing, because most of my life my throat chakra has been under attack. My throat chakra, me speaking my truth, me utilizing my voice for my gifts, I have always been like downplayed. And I'll say something and then somebody will be like, you know or I'll say something and then I'll think it was funny, but then everybody's sitting there like this. And then somebody else will say something that I don't think is all that funny right after me, and then it'll be like roaring laughter. And so, sometimes I'm not saying that I'm a comedian by any means. But sometimes it will be people being petty. Like internally, them motherfuckers is rolling, but externally, because it's me that said the shit, it's not funny. And people try to make you feel like the stuff that you say is invaluable, that people aren't listening when you're talking. They try to make you feel like your voice doesn't have power. But meanwhile, you change the energy of every room. Your voice absolutely has power. Not only does it have the power of the divine, but it also has manifestation power. It also has the power to create, is what I'm hearing. And I feel like that's kind of the same as manifestation power, but I'm hearing the power to create worlds. That's definitely source energy. So be very careful. And that's why the saying goes, life and death is in the power of the tongue. You're welcome. So yeah. Higher soul spirit, what else does the collective need to know? You said sometimes the universe stops me from talking, so I write it one day at a time. Yeah. Is that what Proverbs 18, life and death is in the power of the tongue? Yeah. Some things you gotta keep to yourself only because it could kind of create havoc in a way. And I don't mean like havoc in the sense that, you know, it's just going to destroy your life or anything like that. But it can just be like, you know, if you say too much, it causes people to come against you. And I'm the type of person, I've always been rebellious in that sense. Like, I've always kind of looked at things from a higher perspective and called the bullshit out. And people do not like when you call their bullshit. You said, does it cause war? You said, not selfish, just to myself. I definitely think it can contribute to war. I think that people's, like, their pursuit for money and resources and all that stuff and control of resources, like, that is definitely creating war. But as far as like a spiritual war, is that what you're asking about? I guess you could say that it's associated because, like I was saying, when the more you talk, the more it will cause people to come against you. And but at the same time, like, I don't shy away from war. And that's the nature of a spiritual warrior. It's like you run toward the battle. While other people are running away from the battle, you run right straight into the middle of the battle. Because I promise you, I've had debates with myself about whether I going to have this conversation with this person, because I know that they're very juvenile minded. They can't take correction. They turn into a 2-year-old at the slightest thing. You can't give them any kind of like feedback that hurts their ego or their pride. They need a lot of attention, and it's like they're attention seeking. It's like they're obsessed with the attention, but they try to pretend like they don't like the attention. It's like that female that goes around men and they get a lot of attention for their body, and they act like they don't like the attention. Like, sis. Now, I get if someone has experienced SA and they have trauma around, men being attracted to their body or whatever. I get that part. But most people like compliments. Most people, as long as it's not derogatory or insulting, especially if it's your man and he's like, girl, you wearing them pants, or you look amazing, that type of thing. But like, Don't pretend like you don't like the damn attention. Okay? Please and thank you. You said a lot of people are slipping. Well, I don't even know if I was, yes, but I would say that um the people who are very insecure, it's like, Spirit, what are you trying to say about that? Not Siri. Not you, Siri. Um, but I will say that insecurity is connected to like the Jezebel spirit. So it's like the spirit of needing a lot of attention, using your looks and, how your body is and the things that you wear to get all of that attention, and using that part of you to attract people. And so that's where it gets twisted, because it's like, why aren't you using your personality, your intellect, your intuition? Like you're trying to pull a quality person with a bankrupt personality. Like, what are you doing? And see, the thing is that those types of energies, they're not successful because it's like their energy is cringy, if that makes any sense. So, like, the exterior might be banging, like boom, bam, pow, ample breasts, tiny waist, thick thighs and hips, round peach, you know. But when that person enters your womb area to keep it clean, it's like empty. Literally no depth. And so that's another thing that Spirit was talking to me about. When you activate your divine feminine, it changes the energy of your um feminine reproductive area. And it basically becomes more cosmic. It you know, it already holds a tremendous amount of manifestation power. And like I was talking about before, the divine feminine and her divine masculine, they fit together like a lock and a key. And it's like Spirit is comparing it to like the Cinderella story. So, like, only one feminine lost her shoe. The shoe is only going to fit one person. Just like the masculine has the one shoe that's only going to fit one person. So, like, when you get together with your divine counterpart, um, that person's member is going to have the code, like their key is encoded to unlock your lock. So, like, I don't care how much good intimacy you thought you've had. there is nothing, and I mean nothing, like that when you actually get with the person you are supposed to be with. That interaction is so cosmically charged. um like it'll literally have you like having out of body type experiences. It'll have you like your body is here, but like your existence is in another realm. And so, like, even when you are in separation, you all can, the two of you can connect in other dimensions. And it'll be as if you're connecting in this time and space. If that makes any sense. It's a pretty deep, it's a pretty deep concept. So like I do my best to put it in like human words. It makes perfect sense to me from like a um intuitive standpoint, but like actually put it into words is different. You say you did on thank you. You said even my feet went numb. Okay. Yeah. It's something else now. And that's the thing, is that people are so hell bent on staying with somebody who is basically a karmic. You know, like because of whatever, like basically essentially you not knowing who you are, you not really truly tapping into your feminine energy, puts people in a state of settling for less because they don't know what it's like to be operating in a place of more and higher levels of elevation constantly. And so when you have another person who is operating from that level that you're on, then you can both be in cosmic places that other people can't exist in. Okay. So yeah. It is deep. Okay. Ooh, hold on a minute. Oh, shaking the table. You said gone at the same time. Exactly. Okay. Spirit, what else does a collective need to know? You said I love the universe. And look at this. Will somebody come look at this? I'm talking about divine unions, and this is the first card that comes out. Well, alrighty then. Definitely connections to ancient Egypt with this period. Definitely connections to ancient Egypt with this pyramid, connections to like the original beings. And I've been talking about a masculine. So this is like the feminine and masculine parts of source. So this is like the Trinity. And I talk about this like the feminine is Isis, the masculine is Ra, and so this is Ra and El. Israel was never meant to be a place. It is an existence. It is an energy. It is the union of the divine masculine and feminine within. It is the union of the divine masculine and feminine without. And that's why this picture has like the serpent and the apple tree to represent like, Adam and Eve being the, one of the gods and goddesses of ancient Egypt. And so basically, when these two very powerful beings get together as the masculine and feminine portions of source, it basically balances out source energy. They become one and they become source individually and together. And when you have when you have that much, and then the serpent going up the tree is like the kundalini rising up the tree of life. And so when you possess that magnitude of like cosmic energy, source energy, that's why I was saying that this couple is, going to get together and is basically going to restore the basically restore the masculine and feminine energy, restore balance to the masculine and feminine energy of the planet. And Spirit, what are you saying? I feel like they're saying something about Adam and Eve. Sorry, y'all. I'm moving around a lot because I'm having muscle spasms because I slept wrong on my neck and my shoulder, my neck and my back. And then I was working out and I just made it worse. So I'm on the mend. I also feel like it's some ascension symptoms as well. But you said married to the universe together these past 4 years. Okay. Put each other back respectfully in their own place. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it's getting better. I know that my spirit team, anytime I feel any kind of discomfort, there's a reason behind it. And so I feel like spirit we have the Nine of Wands in reverse, the Three of Wands, and the Death in reverse. And I feel like this is representative of like the portion of the journey before you enter your divine union. It's the twin flame journey portion, you know, not want to do the work, fearing the unknown, fearing change, um, Also too, like fearing love, I'm hearing. And so when you like when you're in the energy of having to fight a lot of spiritual battles, and because what happens is when you have very powerful energy, when you have a very ancient soul, when you are destined to be with someone where the two of you can change the world, can like alter the planet, there are energies that are coming against your union, not knowing who these individuals are. So, like, Spirit is talking about there are covens of people who sit around and they basically are like doing spell work and incantations against this union coming together because they know the ramifications of that union coming together. And Spirit is comparing it to like the idea that Jesus had a female daughter, and then you had like Jesus basically impregnated. So the story goes that Jesus impregnated Mary Magdalene before the crucifixion, and so this baby was born of his direct bloodline, and it was a female. So then the females were then persecuted. So that's why you have like the Salem witch trials and all that other stuff, because there has been an attack on the feminine in order to try to exterminate the Christ bloodline, which is absolutely ludicrous. Ludicrous. Because why would Jesus incarnate as source as a man and then not just incarnate as a woman at some point? Like it has less to do with like, oh, this is like the offspring of Jesus versus this is source energy just in a feminine body. And so that's the other reason why that women have been suppressed and persecuted and all of those things, because they like I was talking about in a live like months ago, maybe a year ago, about the Vatican and like all of the ancient documents that place is gatekeeping. And so when you gatekeep the information, but you use the information to try to prevent this divine union, to try to exterminate women, hoping that you'll just, get the one, is lunacy. No pun intended, because the feminine is associated with the lunar. But it is lunacy to think that you could stop source in human form in the masculine and the feminine. Because the thing is, like, they're always going to be cloaked by the divine. They're always going to be hidden. The divine sees the beginning from the end. They already know what's about to transpire. And so these energies are on like a homing device. They're being guided and navigated and directed through life, and drawn to each other, and all the ups and downs and twists and turns. And so a lot of times, not only will these two people go through marriages, but they'll also go through like other different karmic lessons. And sometimes The marriage is not karmic at all. It was a beautiful union, but one of the people transitioned. And so sometimes that person that they were married to, was their assignment was to get that person prepared for their divine union. So sometimes the person will, get married and be happy and all those things, and then the person, may get sick and transition because their assignment was to teach that individual how to be in a divine union. It's not the divine union, but that person is tapped in and high enough ranking that they agree to be that person for them. So, like, I was dating someone who transitioned, but before he transitioned, he fulfilled his part of my awakening. So like when we met, we started awakening each other. Like we had basically traveled very similar paths in life. When we met each other, we realized that we watched the same people on YouTube. We like Bobby Hemmett, we like esoteric knowledge. Um, he had a lot of lyrical and poetic ability. I like writing poetry, just very creative, kind of like similar childhoods in a way. It may not be like exact, but they have a lot of similarities. And so when he transitioned, through like a reading that I did with my mentor, he basically was like, I only came for you. Like, I only incarnated for us to have that encounter. And once my portion of your assignment was complete, then I could transition. Good night. Thank you for hanging out. I appreciate you. And so, I tell that story because that's a similar story to a lot of people who are on the twin flame journey. Because, like, thank you for the gifts. I was talking about the other night how, as long as it's not a karmic twin flame, the twin flames, they have their separate, and then I use the word separate loosely, because even though, as if your genuine twin flames being guided together by the divine is separate, but it's not separate. So like, you may not know each other, you may live in different parts of the country or even different parts of the world, but it's going to be destined for you all to meet and get together. And so regardless of like how that journey looks individually, there's always that togetherness. So like the things that the like the ways in which, and I'm just going to use he and she, take it how it resonates. I'm not excluding any like LGBTQ community. I'm just going to simplify the explanation and to not make it like all over the place. I'm just going to use he and she. So he and she have been on this journey, and they're like working things out individually. And so those healed parts of each person is going to then complement the other person. Because in a human vessel, you still have to deal with life. You still have to deal with challenges and insecurities and, not being sure about different things. And so that person comes equipped with what it is that you need to be supported in, and vice versa. And so that ties back into the having the lock and key. Because there is such a thing as a universal key, but we're not talking about a universal key or like a skeleton key that opens every door. We're talking about a specific key that only unlocks you. And I promise y'all, it's like what Spirit is comparing it to is like having the choice between two lottery tickets. So you have one person who their lottery ticket, they've got 5 out of 6 numbers. I don't play the lottery like that, so I don't know how many you need to hit the jackpot. But they have like 5 out of 6 numbers. So you get, a decent payout perhaps, but it's not the jackpot. And so when you don't choose yourself, when you don't know who you are, when you're settling for less basically, and you take the what looks like the jackpot, because I don't know, but a lot of times the difference is like $1 million versus $900 million. You can do a lot more with 900 million. A million, you can, first of all, there's houses that's more than $1 million. So like try thinking that you gonna do a whole lot with $1 million. And I'm not, notwithstanding investments and businesses and all that stuff. I'm just talking about just the ticket for face value, and that's it. $900 million can be converted to generational wealth all by itself. Because if you have say, even if you have a blended family, you have a total of like 5 kids between the two of you. You can set up a trust fund of several $1 million for each child. You can still live an opulent, luxurious life. That all of that can be passed down to your children. And you can still establish very significant size trust funds for your children and your grandchildren. And yes, of course, you want them to continue to grow the money. But that's like what Spirit is saying is that the masculine and feminine is the foundation, like the tree. And then the offspring is the fruit. And so if you and your divine partner are bearing fruit, that is part of the abundance. Just like the seasons change, the tree sheds its leaves and it goes through a transition or an awakening period, a hibernation period, if you will. And then in the springtime, it then blossoms again. The leaves come out, the apples grow. And so that's something that is basically like the two people coming together. They bring that abundance within each other that creates everlasting fruit, is what I'm hearing. And when you as a couple embodies everlasting fruit, your children really don't have a choice but to pick up what you're putting down and eat the apple and gain the wisdom and know how to regulate your emotions, know how to balance your emotions, know how to balance your masculine and feminine. So then you now have you have generation after generation after generation of this type of energy. Your children are choosing high level, high consciousness partners. They're not having a bunch of chaos and turmoil and all of that in their relationships. They're being humanitarians. They're being, your children, even though everybody has um, everyone has, what am I trying to say, Spirit? Everyone has free will. And so if you have 3 children and one of them decides to cut the fool and go their own way, you hope that they would get back on the right track and do things, but at the same time each individual energy has their own journey, and it is going to look way different for each one. However, when you have two people that are examples, they walk, they talk, they live their life as an example. That doesn't mean you're perfect. It doesn't mean that you're holier than thou. It doesn't mean that you never cuss. It doesn't mean that you don't lose your shit every now and then. But it means that the energy that the two of you possess is the type of energy that passes down those things to your bloodline through like the subconscious, where they're running on this divine program on autopilot the way their mommy and daddy were. And so, like I know someone who was married to a really phenomenal woman. She transitioned, but during the time that they were together, she embodied and exemplified what her daughters now will exemplify. So it's like there's certain people who are only here for a short period of time, but because of what they embodied, regardless of how old their children were when they transitioned, their children will naturally embody those amazing qualities. And that's why I hate to use this term because I really did not like Kevin Samuels. But when you talk about high value, when two high value individuals come together and be examples for their children, it's very difficult for the children to stray. And if they stray, they're not gonna stray for too long. You said I love that so much. Yes, it's beautiful. It really is. Um And again, it's not about perfection. The divine does not care about that. Well, we have been taught about, oh, you're not supposed to drink, you're not supposed to cuss, you're not supposed to have sex out of marriage, you're not supposed to have the A word, the medical procedure, you're not supposed to do this, you're not supposed to do that. And the divine is sitting there like, we're not concerned about any of that. Because what happens is when you are uber focused on the conscious part of life, the human part of life, it completely overshadows and takes away from you just being an amazing cosmic divine being. And spirit is like, we don't really have time for all that shit. There's bigger fish to fry here. That's why they're not weighing your brain on a scale, because that's more of the conscious part. That's more of the masculine part. That's more of the human part. But they're weighing your heart on a scale, because that's the compassion, the softness, the just having and I'll use the word humanitarian all the time, just being a humanitarian. I was getting ready to say having a heart for people. And that also doesn't, y'all, I gotta stretch. I know this looks very weird. But that also doesn't mean that you like people. And I know that might be somewhat of a conundrum for people. I know it is for me, because knowing who I am and knowing that I am an extreme humanitarian, but I really don't like people like that. It confuses me all the time. I feel like, how the hell do I exist in one body? Because I do not like none of these motherfuckers. There are so many. I was talking to my spirit team about this earlier today. There are so many fake individuals. I have a really hard time with inauthenticity. Now, if I meet someone at work and I'm having to be professional, then I'm going to be professional. So if that's fake, okay. But no, what I'm talking about the kind of fake where you pretend to like people that you really can't stand. You pretend to care about people that you really can't stand. You act like you're going out of your way for people, and I'm here for you, and if you need anything, just ask, and can I help you with this, and can I help you with that? And then when they help you, they're secretly resentful. That's that bullshit, and that's why I don't like people. Because I could rock with people who are like, yo, I'm not going to lie to you, I really have a problem with being hateful to people. I can work with that. Will I really fuck with you the long way? Probably not. Because I'm not going to have anybody around me in no raggedy ass energy. That's for damn sure. Like when you go and you get with your spirit team and you go work that shit out and you want to come back around, holla at me at that point. But while you're in that energy, like, kudos to you for taking accountability. Kudos to you for acknowledging the problem. But I can't fuck with you. Because that type of energy attaches to your energy, attaches to your healing nature, and can suck the whole life out of you. You said it's like a cancer. Yes. 1000%. And a lot of people who are inauthentic try to disguise themselves as non confrontational. I would rather you be in my face confrontational than internally and behind my back throwing me all kinds of fucking evil eye, hating me, being jealous of me, wanting to compete with me, sending death magic towards me. Like, that's why Spirit wants to know what the fuck is in your heart. What is truly in your heart? Because you can use your brain to acquire a bunch of damn book knowledge and become an expert and have a PhD. You can do all of these things to gain all these accolades, but be a treacherous fucking individual, pushing people further away from their divine mission, burdening people with your trauma to the point where people like want to give up, they don't have any faith. And I'm going to just tell you, I have encountered like the professors that I have had that have been the absolute worst are the ones who purport to be these amazing Christians. First of all, teaching at any level is extremely important because how you treat that person has a tremendous impact on their decisions going forward, how they treat others, how seriously they take their profession, especially if it's in like a helping profession like counseling or, medicine or whatever. If you have a nasty, petty, catty bedside manner, but you're the top surgeon in the world, who gives a fuck? Because you don't know how to talk to people. You can use your hands and your talent to save people, but you going in there with all of your bullshit, like, you got stage 4 and it's not really looking good, and we're gonna do the surgery, but I would say you have maybe 6 months with the surgery. Because this person mad because their parent just passed from cancer and they weren't able to save them, type shit. And like this one professor I had, she attached scripture to everything. So that told me right there that she grew up in a cultish church. You grew up in a very strict, religious, controlling, domineering, manipulative family, and y'all were a part of a cultish church. Because the other thing that she would do is she would use scripture to send subliminal messages to people. She did that shit to me one time in the chat, like the private messenger. I hit her right back with a fucking scripture. I was mirroring the hell out of that lady. And I'm sad to say that she was African American and went to an HBCU. Those be the worst ones. Now, granted, I know that HBCUs will haze the hell out of you because I was hazed from undergraduate to the master's program and the year that I went to law school. And I already know that by the time you get a PhD from an HBCU, you're like, you need medical attention. The hazing is so damn rough. But instead of doing something differently, she took all that trauma from her upbringing and coming up in this church, in addition to the hazing she received from HBCUs, and she is ravaging her students. Ravaging them. Breaking their spirit. Grading as if these people are already PhDs, submitting papers to professional journals and shit. People come from all walks of life. People come from all kinds of different undergrad schools. By the time you get to the master's level, you dealing with a lot of professionals who may have already worked for 20 years and they're going back to school just to be able to, get a license so that maybe in retirement they can work off of a license versus what they've been doing. And you're talking about people who have been 20 years removed from a lot of the technology and stuff like that. And so I had a discussion with her about how she grades, and she was like, well, it's not meant to be punitive. Absolutely it is, ma'am. Are you crazy? Are we talking about the same assignment here? Because I had a really amazing, I can't say it's all black women's professors, because I had a really amazing black female teacher who taught me a lot. She deducted points appropriately and gave me the feedback. And then when I asked her questions, she was very open to teaching me. This other chick, she had the expectation was that you operate like some kind of robot. Who operates like that? No human vessel operates like that. Like, okay, there's like maybe 1% of the population that is a genius autistic person who can operate like that from a mental standpoint. But most people aren't just walking AI out here. And, I was in a group chat with a couple of other students who we had a couple of classes together. And the other students were like completely stressed the hell out every time they had to submit an assignment. Nobody should have to go through that. Nobody. And it's especially important in like an online setting for the teacher to be open to working more one-on-one with people, because you're not in a classroom, you're not in person, you can't have like classroom discussions. You can, like we're posting and having, discussions that way, but it never compares to in-person instruction. I wouldn't have made it through undergrad if I had been online or something like that for undergrad, because I'm the type of individual, I need to be sitting in a class with a notebook, taking notes, listening to the professor, listening to other students' contributions. But that's just me. I'm making this online shit work, because now I have to work and all, and adulting things. He said, "Congratulations, thank you." But yeah, I mean, I say all of that to say that the divine is focused on you loving other people, loving yourself above all else. And when you are like basically taking your trauma out on people unnecessarily, when you are unnecessarily exerting your power over other people, when it like brings you joy to knock people back a couple of notches with your ability to grade them punitively. That I know the divine is, because see, and the thing is that we're talking about like I said, very sensitive professions. Social work, psychology, medicine, counseling. You are dealing with an extremely vulnerable population. People that may have had substance abuse issues, people who are so sick that they don't know how to advocate for themselves. And that is a very, like, it's very near, those professions are very near and dear to the divine, because people in the mental health profession have the capacity to help people awaken to who they are. They have the capacity to help people heal inner child wounds. They have the capacity to help people align, balance, restore chakras. They have the ability to give people a different perspective to the point where they are able to heal, transform, like I said, awaken. And when you mess with that process, when you mess with that process of these people learning how to know themselves, know their gifts, when you interrupt their learning process with fuck shit, just because it makes you feel powerful to be able to fail people, because you feel like a failure, because your parents made you feel like a failure, because nothing you did in life was good enough. Not even getting married, having a child, not getting a PhD, absolutely nothing was good enough. And so when you grow up in very strict religious households and you go to these cultist type churches, the expectation is perfection all day long, because when you can make someone feel like they have to be perfect, you can control that individual. Because there's no such thing as perfection. So if someone is striving for perfection through an energy that they think is outside of them, aka Christ, internally and energetically, they're never going to feel whole, adequate, valuable, worthy. Because there's no way, and sorry, I gotta like stretch again. There's no way to be perfect. And I feel like Spirit is saying we're not even looking for perfection, because then that would be inauthentic. Your authenticity comes from the what you consider mistakes. Your authenticity comes from your experiences, good, bad, ugly, and different. Your authenticity comes from having to be like totally destroyed and built back up. You have to be operating at a high level of authenticity to be relatable to people. That's why Source would never incarnate just as this big ass winged being in the fucking sky. Source could do that. But no, Source has always chosen to incarnate in a human vessel and blend in with everybody. Because not only is that the way to get the truest, most authentic human experience, it makes them relatable, authentic. People don't want to learn things from somebody that's never gone through some shit. You know, I mean, if anybody and everybody can be a damn counselor or whatever. But I don't want just any and everybody to be my counselor, because if you grew up in what's that part of LA? I don't know. I was trying to think about the part that the Kardashians live in. I think it starts with a C or something like that. I forgot what it's called. It's on the tip of my tongue. But let's just say Bel Air, like the Fresh Prince. If you grew up in Bel Air, you never had to struggle, you don't know what it's like to be in public housing, you don't know what it's like to have to use food stamps, you don't know what it's like to be discriminated against for your race or your gender, you don't know what it's like to have to, um, you know, just go through all of the ups and downs of life, because a lot of the struggles of this lifetime are connected to money. People are heavily in pursuit of money and status. And so a lot of times people will they'll attach their identity to their job title, what company they work for, the type of degree they have, like, oh, I'm a software engineer, I have my doctorate in this and that and whatever. But meanwhile, you have like book knowledge and you have these letters behind your name, but you don't have the authentic compassion to be able to truly connect with people on a deeper level other than just the surface. And I'm gonna have to get off of here soon because my neck and my back. Um, Spirit is doing something because I'm feeling changes in that whole area. This is what divine wisdom looks like. This is what mastering your energy looks like. There's nothing threatening about this. There's nothing intimidating about this. Now, unless you grew up where your family used to make you go out and get a switch from the tree, maybe it, causes you to have some negative flashbacks. But that divine hand in your life, in your journey, on your path, handing you this magical wand, there's no negativity attached to this. The leaves are green, they're prospering, they're not dead and falling off. This is like, Spirit is saying, this is like the rebirth of your energy. So, like, the death would be the leaves turning colors and falling off, but then this is the resurrection. And we have the Queen of Cups. I mean, this is pure confirmation of what I was talking about with regard to people who purport to be professors. You're welcome, Ashley. Thank you for hanging out. And Spirit said, once you have mastered your energy, you embody that humanitarian. Now you can start planning for all of the things that Spirit has promised you. The world is now in your hands. You now have been given all power and authority in your hands to rule over this earth. I'm just a messenger. And like I was saying, just being left out in the cold, having to struggle, having to suffer. But even though they're in the cold, it's like they're walking through it to get to a warm place. So the cold is like people hating on you, people throwing evil eye, people being competitive, catty, mean to you for no reason. And like this guy, it looks like he has kind of like similar to like crutches or whatever. That is the support that the divine gave you while you were in the cold, while people were abandoning you. You've always been supported. There may not have been a lot of money, but you somehow made it work. You made something out of nothing. And also, too, like when you are truly working for the good of the people, a lot of times you may not have a whole lot of resources. If you noticed, and I really hate this for our community, but especially in the Black community, when you have like people who are activists and in the streets and marching and protesting and going into the community and doing things to try to affect change and schmooze with the politicians who are, lawmakers and decision makers and are voting on this or voting on that, going to community meetings, being active in your community, advocating for things like zoning and, fighting against gentrification in your neighborhood. My mother was that person. But my mother looked like this until the day she died. Unfortunately. Now, I will say that a lot of that shit was karma because of how she interacted with me. But this lady would, like, she was on all kinds of committees. She would be on the library board. She would be, working in places where she interacted with the who's who of the community. And she just, it was kind of ingrained in her by her parents. And so now we're going back to what I was talking about with how you basically, the couple instills certain things in their offspring. But when there's not a balance, when you're doing these things but you're not mentally well, when you're doing these things and your health, your physical health is declining. And that's basically what I was talking about with those crutches. Like, you out here in the trenches doing for everybody but yourself. We are not supposed to be advocating for the community, doing things for others to the detriment of ourselves. We should not be out here broke, busted, and disgusted, and other people are thriving off of our money. My mother had plenty of opportunities where she had plenty of money, and that lady was still walking around looking fucking homeless. And I'm just using this example because when you're outspoken, when you are the voice of people, when you're a voice of the voiceless, when you're the one who has the confidence to speak up for people who are like, oh no, I don't want to say anything because I'm scared that, they're going to cut my benefits or they're going to put me out. Or if I say something, I might lose my job and I'm not going to say anything. When you're that person that will say, I'm not going to allow this motherfucker to continue to treat people in this place like that. I'll take the beat down. I'll take the abandonment. I'll take the ostracism, if that's the word. Like, I'll be the one to take being ostracized. I'll take the L for the fucking team. That shit takes a lot of fucking courage. Because you have to be okay with being hated. You have to be okay with being given evil eye. You have to be okay with people creating false narratives about you and you not ever being able to defend yourself. Because when people get together in groups and one person, like we talked about earlier, is a cancer of the group, that person spreads all that shit among the people, affects all those people, and it's typically against the person who is saying, I'm not going to put up with your shit. I'm not going to allow you to keep traumatizing people the way you do. If these other people are too scared to fucking say something, damn it, I'm going to say something. And that's the earth angel energy. That's the walking karma energy. That's the spiritual warrior energy. If we didn't have these energies that voluntarily agreed to incarnate in this ghetto ass planet, you think it's out of balance now? If you didn't have these energies anchoring in the universe and anchoring this planet into the universe, this bitch would be somewhere spiraling out of control in space. And when I tell you, that's why I talk about that the people who truly resonate with my message, who are truly out here doing the work, these people have been so, I'm going to say, assaulted by life and people for absolutely no reason most of the time. You know, it's natural for people to treat you some kind of way because you just a straight shooter. You like, this is what it is. That's all. Take it or leave it. Get your panties in a fucking bunch. Get an attitude. Be mad at me. Not want to speak to me. You cannot be in people pleaser mode to do that. You cannot be in the mode of somebody who is what was I about to say? I lost my train of thought. But you know, it's like you have to be in a place where you care but you don't really give a fuck. Because the safety, the well-being, the enlightenment, the awakening, the elevation, and the ascension, and the integration of people with their higher selves means more to you than your pride, your ego, whether people like you or not. When I tell you that is the road 1,000,000% less traveled. I was talking to someone today because I know that I get placed on spiritual assignment all the time. And we were talking and she was like, I feel like I'm on spiritual assignment. And I was like, you are. And, you know, it was a situation where it was like, well, she was like, I hope I'm passing the test. And I was like, you know, I wasn't going to go into all, you know, the details of what I could see. But one of the things is, if you're not willing to stand up for yourself, if you're not willing to advocate for yourself, if you're not willing to I want to, like, I feel like I'm hearing sacrifice. Because you are sacrificing a lot of happiness in the process. Because, like, I was talking to my spirit team today and I was like, I absolutely hate these assignments. Oh, you said I'm on my fourth day of fasting, water only. Okay, awesome. Awesome. I'm sure you're getting a ton of clarity and downloads. But like this this journey, this job requires sacrificing being liked, being a part of the crowd. It's super isolating because people do not want to see themselves. People want to live in a constant state of delusion. People want to blame everybody else for their problems. People want to play the victim. People want to act like hurt 2-year-olds. People want to come against people and burden people to like somehow vindicate their pain. But let me tell you something, and this is going to be kind of like a disgusting graphic, but every time you shit on someone, it's like throwing that shit at a fan on high speed that is facing you. And like I was saying earlier today, you're mad because you're caught in a shitstorm that you created. You shit the shit. You took a shit, it hit the fan, and now you're covered in it and you're mad. And now you're a victim. It's the fan's fault. It's the walking karma's fault. Meanwhile, people have opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to back off. You get all kinds of warnings like warning, warning, this is not the one to fuck with. This is not the one to fuck with. But when people are so used to taking advantage of what they consider weaker vessels, they don't know how to cut that shit off. It's now embedded in them. It's a part of them. It's a part of their like operating system. And so when someone encounters that kind of energy that they have come against, and this person has been sent in on assignment for you, baby, I pity the fool. Like I said, very isolating. We're talking about family abandoning you, so-called friends abandoning you. People really can't stand you. Like, this is a very dark place. Spiritual warriors have to transcend the darkness of life constantly. And that's why these energies are equipped with a built-in return to sender, a instant built-in return to sender. Because with this, with powerful energy, if you were not cloaked, if you were not heavily protected, the magnitude of the negative, dark, damn demonic energies that are being sent towards you would destroy you. Like spirit is showing me the image of someone combusting because it's so much energy. Because people will say things like, I wish she would just unalive herself. I wish she would just die. I wish she would just go somewhere. I wish he would just. Like I said, life and death is in the power of the tongue. When people speak those things against you, if you are not heavily protected, it has the potential to completely implode you. I can't make it up. That dark energy, do you see? First of all, the Baphomet is feminine energy because it represents dark energy, hidden energy. That's the worst kind. That's why I said I would rather have somebody talk shit to me in my face than to do this shit behind your back. Because it's way more powerful when people do it supposedly behind your back, because they're saying shit that they would never say to your face, ever. Because like I said, these inauthentic, oh, I'm just a quiet, calm, even keeled, non-confrontational individual. But meanwhile, these motherfuckers getting in their car on the way home, at home, getting drunk, plotting and scheming on how to unalive you, who they can pay to get rid of you. Your thoughts are frequency. So yes, is it much more powerful in this realm to actually speak out of your mouth? Yes, but your thoughts, the energy that you're emitting, the energy that you're pushing towards someone, very, very powerful. This whole existence is nothing but energy. So every time someone is like pissed off at you, talking shit about you, that energy has the potential to penetrate your aura, your auric field. Not when you're protected, though, because the divine already knows that when you stand for something, people are going to be constantly coming against you. And that's why these individual energies have so much more protection. Because it's just like, so I'm gonna give you a prime example. Everything happens for a reason. I read this article about that plane crash on at LaGuardia Airport, that recent Air Canada plane crash on LaGuardia Airport. Ironically, it crashed with a freaking airline fire truck that was going to another emergency. And so what the article was saying is that like the air traffic controller, because there was an emergency situation, this wasn't like a normal regular vehicle coming through, the air traffic controller like made a spontaneous utterance of like, I messed up. Because, they, of course, you understand what air traffic control means. They have a very high stress job because they are responsible for giving all the planes the green light to land. And because he didn't tell this Air Canada flight, you're gonna have to circle, or give us a minute because we have an emergency on the tarmac. This plane, and like the NTSB was like, it's too early to determine all of the moving parts and mechanisms that contributed to this. We can't just pin it all on the air traffic controller. They were like, there was probably multiple failures. But what happened is that there was a flight attendant strapped to her jump seat that was attached to the cockpit. So when you first come in the plane and the cockpit is here and there's seats that are adjacent to the cockpit, it's the cockpit that basically broke off of the aircraft, killing the pilots. And she was attached to that area. So her jump seat plummeted 300 feet to the ground. When they found her, she was still strapped to the seat. But because those jump seats are designed way different from a regular passenger seat to withstand a crash, all she has is a fractured leg. Not broken, fractured. I mean, we can argue the semantics of what a fracture means, but to me, there's a difference between a clean break and a fracture. Sis, you mean to tell me you plummeted 300 feet to the ground from a damaged plane and your jump seat did all of that for you? And the article was saying that the reason why the jump seat has more protection is because the flight attendant, they need the flight attendant to be alive to be able to help the passengers in an emergency. Why the hell would the divine put a spiritual warrior on this planet without the proper protection to help people in an emergency? We are talking about high callings. We are talking about divine purposes assigned by the Galactic Council. I was talking to my spirit guides earlier, and I'm just in awe of the fact that the main people who saw me, the clearest from my higher self, from my spiritual perspective and all of that, those were the ones that came against me the hardest. The first person that I ever got a reading from, who was like an amazing reader, she was telling me all kinds of like future things, what I was going to be learning. Super powerful. She could see who I was in past lifetimes. My spirit team refuses to even talk about the types of shit she was doing. When the divine refuses to speak about it, ever understand the thought process. I get it that you are, competitive and you have built a platform, you've built your spiritual business on TikTok, and you don't want other people competing for your clients and your numbers and your, growth and expansion and all that stuff. But that's the issue with people having too much of their person, if you will, in the physical human realm. It still baffles me. I'm like, how could you be that powerful of a reader? You see me. My spirit guides don't show me to everyone. They may show like a small glimpse of whatever, but there's a very select group of people that my spirit team would actually fully expose me to. Every single one of them. You say your heart's beating so fast right now. Yeah. Because I'm sure that's your energy telling you that I'm talking about this because you have been the subject of the same type of shit. When I get excited when I meet reincarnated ancient deities. I'm like, do you know who you are? Like, do you know that you're I think what's the deity that came in my life one time? Hecate. Hecate was all up in my life. And the wild part was I told her that she is Hecate, and she said, stop fucking playing, because I use the name Hecate when I do online dating. Like, that's her screen name. So when I tell you that these people, these reincarnated ancient deities, are walking around, some knowing who they are, some not knowing who they are, but ultimately they know who they are. Subconsciously, the feminine part of them knows who they are. Consciously, they're just like, oh, I think the name Hecate is cute. I like her energy or whatever, her story. And so I'm just going to use that one. Of all of the ancient deity names that could possibly have been used, she picked that one. And do you know how many readers would be pissed off encountering an ancient deity? Because I promise you, there are a handful of people that I know I have seen personally. There's one dude who's claiming to be Tahuti. He is not. I asked my higher self, I was like, is this Tahuti? She was like, are you fucking bored right now asking me that dumb shit? It's a dangerous game to be holding yourself out here to be that powerful of an ancient deity, and you just out here giving people lip service. There's a lot of people who are charismatic and they're well read and they find synchronicities in information and they piece stuff together in a nice little compact narrative. And they purport to be channeling, they purport to be able to answer questions about the cosmos and the universe and the divine and all these other things. And they not more powerful than the man in the fucking moon, whatever that means. Out here, I'm not trying to shade people, but I'm not calling out anybody in particular. But people out here purporting to be ancient reincarnated deities, and your life is bankrupt on so many different levels. My thing is, my life doesn't look what I want it to look like or what the divine wants it to look like right this minute on purpose, because everything is in divine timing and divine order. However, I am rich and I am abundant in knowing who I am, in my spiritual gifts, in loving myself, in integrating with my higher self. That's what abundance is. My spirit team kept telling me, your abundance is all around you. And I'd be like, fuck that. I need actual money, bitch. I need actual money in this 3D motherfucker. Y'all playing with me right now. But this energy that I'm in right now is what they were talking about. Years ago, when I was just learning that I had these gifts and all of that, I was just kind of like waffling through life, just feeling like a regular ass human, feeling like I was seeing setback after setback. You know, thought I did the right thing by going to school and getting an advanced degree, but every job, or the majority of jobs I was getting was not paying enough. I felt overworked and undervalued at these jobs. I was having to work multiple jobs at one time to feed my children and keep the lights on. So like I'm almost like, I am like, thank God I didn't know who I was then, because that would have been torture. Because I would have been sitting here like, how the fuck am I'm still like that sometimes now. How the fuck am I this powerful person, but my life in this area doesn't look like this, and this area doesn't look like this? But now, after I have taken like 5 years actively knowing I had gifts to do the work, and I was doing the work for decades before that, which included a stint in Christianity and all of that. And I'm not saying that your journey has to look like mine. I'm not saying that it's going to take you years to get to where I'm at now or whatever. I'm just saying that I was getting readings years ago. Your money is secure, your family is secure, your children are taken care of, you're taken care of. And I'm like, but where is the fucking money? Show me the money. And Spirit is like, your pentacles is where your abundance lies. Your creativity is where your abundance lies. And so that's why the powers that be, the small percentage of the elites, the small percentage of the people that are gatekeeping the knowledge that was supposed to be like a roadmap for us, They don't want you to know who you are because there's too much abundance attached to it. There's a tremendous, first of all, when you know who you are, that is the energy that gives you the power to speak up for yourself, to set boundaries for yourself, to practice self-love, to put yourself first. People no longer can take advantage of those energies. Could you imagine a planet of awakened people who weren't gonna take this shit no more? It's happening though. Because if you look back at history, yes, there were people who, were radical and all of that. But there's a way bigger collective just right now of awakened people who are like, all of this shit has been a lie. A complete lie and a complete illusion. And it was planned. If we can make them feel like, if we can make them think that you have to go to school, then you have to go to work for somebody, you're not really tapped in the way you think you are because it's only Jesus that's tapped in. So that's why you have to worship Jesus, beg and pray that Jesus will, help you. And then you'll be covered by the blood. So basically, like, you're not supposed to sin, but if you do sin, you're still covered in the blood. So, like, anything that you do to harm people really doesn't matter that much because you're always going to be covered in the blood. Now, that right there is one of the top most detrimental lies that we have been told. What part of Ma'at says ye shall be covered in the fucking blood? What part of that? Because actually the shedding of the blood happens monthly for women. Confirmation. Ani knows what's up. I'm going to say that again. For anybody watching this at a later date, if you didn't quite catch that. The shedding of the blood. The sacrifice, the blood sacrifice occurs monthly based on the lunar cycle. You said happening right now with me. But I'm so serious. Spirit gave me that download months ago because that's what they try to hide. Because if we understood that, if we understood that the power that we possess every time our blood is shed, we're talking about healing, cleansing. I'm not trying to be graphic. I'm trying to keep it as PG as possible. But one of the most powerful times to be intimate is during that time. And, that might gross some people out, and people not trying to be out here running red lights and whatnot. I get it. But as far as like rituals go, that's a big one. So, you know, Spirit is talking about somebody did their big one. I mean, it's like when you have, um, when you think about like when you don't shed the blood, you have a baby. Like what? And then babies are born covered in blood. So, yeah, you are covered in the blood and you are reborn when you reincarnate into this planet. But when you transition back to the spirit realm, there is no blood. It's you, your heart, and them scales. And the divine. So, good luck. And that's the thing, like, what Spirit is saying right now is that when you are born covered in the blood, you're an infant, you're completely innocent, your heart is pure, you have not been exposed to toxic family traits, traumas of life, bullying, substance use. You haven't been brainwashed by religion and education, and you haven't been lied to yet. Your memories, your past life memories have been wiped to your subconscious mind. And so that's what being covered in the blood means. Because whatever happens in the last lifetime, you have a fresh new start to rectify those things. Because being covered in the blood doesn't mean that it completely goes away. It just means that you now have a fresh start. You have a completely clean slate. And so whatever you go through in this lifetime, you have the choice of either letting it make you better or bitter. Are you going to love people or hate people? And like I was saying earlier, there's a difference between love and like. I can love you without liking you. So just because I don't like people, I can still love people enough to, treat them with love and kindness. I don't have to fuck with you like that. I don't have to be around you. But I can still, from a distance, wish you the best. From a distance, I can want the absolute utmost prosperity and blessings and bliss for you. Because the thing is, just because somebody did me dirty, or just because a relationship didn't work out, or just because, maybe you have adult children that talk shit to you, regardless, why do I need to wish harm on somebody? How does that benefit me? It doesn't. There's no vindication. There's no benefit, because it all comes back on me. I really need to get off of here. I feel like Spirit wants me to pull a couple of cards from this deck. And this is how it usually happens. Like, when I have a message like this, it's usually like one or two people in my life. And it was this time when I really didn't want to get on live. Because like last night, I only got about 4 hours of sleep, and I was dog tired. And I was just like, I'm not really feeling it. I was falling asleep. It was just a lot. It was a lot. You said it ain't in my nature. Yeah, I feel that. Thank you for the follow. Yeah, I definitely feel that. And people, Spirit needs more people like you. Because it's just, there's so much hate. You said, I'm happy you're back tonight. Oh, thank you. I'm glad you hung out with me so you could get this message, because I'm sure you needed to get this message down in your spirit. Let it sizzle in your spirit. You said, thank you so much. I came on at the right time. Absolutely. You're welcome. Yeah, because that's really ultimately what I'm here for, is to be able to speak truth to people, to be able to awaken people, to be able to help people to really embody and embrace who they are. Truly. And the first card out is 13, rich guy. So gender neutral. But yes, the people who are out here doing the work, Spirit said the real soul family. Oh, y'all are going to be set out. When I say set out, like, yeah. Because Spirit knows that when they bestow a tremendous amount of wealth and riches upon people who are pure-hearted, you are going to do the right thing with the money. You're going to do the humanitarian thing with the money, because you are not a karmic feminine or masculine. Because you cannot trust this kind of money that's straight from the divine. You cannot trust that with just anybody, especially not karmics. That's what the fuck we dealing with now. A bunch of people who have used humanly means to generate money, making it seem like that's some kind of blessing from the divine, when it ain't. Yeah, because not only are you rich, but you are nice. genuinely nice, genuinely kind-hearted, genuinely a humanitarian, authentically a good person. These karmics are having all kinds of health issues. And the reason why these are in reverse is because like spirit will direct cards that are for the collective toward me, and then they will direct cards that are for the karmics in the opposite direction. So yeah, like these people have zero love for others. Very selfish. This cup is turned upside down because it is empty. And like I said earlier, emotionally bankrupt, mentally ill, karmic soulmates. I'm telling you, because the majority of earth angels have to go through challenge after challenge after challenge surrounding relationships. That's why there's so many karmics who try to come in relationship with people, whether that's platonic or romantic, whether that's mother child, father child, sister brother. Yeah, this life requires self-love. In order to be able to love other people, you have to have loved yourself first. And I mean like a genuine, unconditional love. I show my unconditional love for people that I don't like by not wishing harm upon them. It's as simple as that. I don't have to fuck with you. I don't have to like you. I don't have to ever be around you. I could have you blocked on everything, but I still don't wish harm upon you. That's how I show you unconditional love. Because the same way these very powerful energies can use that power for good, they can also burn some shit down. Metaphorically. I'm hearing that song, You Could Shut It Down, Down, Down. They notice. Look at his shirt. And message. Fire. You can burn it down. All the way down. If you so chose. Manipulation. It's exactly what I was talking about earlier. And just like I was talking about earlier, that twin flame journey. That journey toward healing so you can come together in a divine union. And create this family where you can pass on generational wealth. And the wealth is also your virtues. Like I said, being a humanitarian, doing things for the community, bringing equity to the community. Yeah, because you're a sweetheart. Giving that earth angel energy. Spirit said, Because you're a sweetheart, you're not going to be single for very long. If you haven't met your person already, your person is coming in hot and heavy. And these hoes is going to be big mad. You hear me? Big mad. Big mad. Like, did you see Ashley with her boo? Oh, so she thinks that she cute, right? Because she got a ring on her finger. He said, "You're amazing. Thank you." But and people are going to create a false narrative about you when you are sexy, single, confident, unbothered. Take care of yourself. People, I was talking about that the other night. Just because you're on a tight budget doesn't mean that you can't take care of yourself. There is no reason why anybody should make you feel like it's a requirement for you to be broke, busted, and disgusted because you don't have the budget for certain things. There are economical ways you can get press-on nails from Walmart or wherever. I don't really like shopping at Walmart, but whatever. Amazon, whatever. You can get all kinds of makeup and skincare from the Dollar Tree. There's actually a guy who shows people how to shop at the thrift store, and there is a woman, I think her name is Moody or something like that, but she is dope as hell when it comes to putting a damn thrift store outfit together. Like, I legit would pay her to be my stylist and get all of my items from the thrift store. If you have a nice one, because the guy that I watched his video, he went to a really nice one. Like, it was clean, it was organized, it was color coded, it was like easy to look through the racks and all of that. It looked like the clothes had been laundered before put on the rack. So he was blessed with a nice one. I've seen some crazy ones. But I feel like Spirit is saying that you have been beat down since you were a child because people knew without fully consciously knowing the power you possess, the mission that you're here on. People just out here trying to use you for your body. And see, when people just focus on, this is how very attractive people can have low self-esteem. So whether you're a male or female, if you are very physically attractive, and because that's the first thing people see, many times people will completely overlook who you are as a person just because they want arm candy, or they just, are enamored with the way you look, or how you look somehow elevates their status in life. Come on now. Damn, mama. Yeah, your ancestors said that whoever has come against you, they're not going to be able to do it anymore. They're a little tied up right now, spiritually and metaphorically. We're talking about hands cannot do spell work or rituals. Mouth cannot form to speak your name. Because you know the divine works in mysterious ways. If you running your daggone mouth about somebody, you might just have like a damn toothache or some shit. This could be a mother figure. This could be like a mother-in-law, your actual mother. This could be somebody that has been jealous of you, come against you. Because look, I'm not trying to like put older people in a box, but look at her. It says mature woman. Her face looks her age, but it's like she's trying to be younger based on her body and her outfit. You know, again, as I get older, that doesn't mean that I'm going to be dressing prudish, but this is just giving the energy of I'm mad that I'm getting older and my daughter is looks how I used to look. So I'm going to be jealous of her. I'm going to try to make her feel not as pretty. I'm going to try to make her feel less than so I can make myself feel better. Like, get the fuck out of here. I was telling my daughter today, I said, always stay how you are. Because we were laughing because we went to King's Dominion back in the day and we were sitting at like the picnic tables, you know, eating food or whatever. And she was making a video of me on Snapchat, and she was using like this filter that had dog ears and stuff. And so every time I would stick my tongue out, it would like flop this dog tongue out, and I had ears, and we were just laughing in the video. And she was like, "Mommy, stop it," because I was like, "What do I got to do?" And she was like, "Stop it." Because I kept like activating the little dog face. And so I sent her the video because it came up in my memories on Facebook. And she was like, I stayed clowning. And I was like, yes. And I said, do not change anything about you. Everything about you makes you you. It makes you amazing. It's what people fall in love with. It's what your children will fall in love with. Because my daughter used to do that to me all the time, where I would just be sitting there, like we would be out to eat or something, and I'd be sitting there doing something on my phone, and then I would just like randomly get a video that she like snuck of me. And I always loved that because it was like her sweet, innocent way of telling me, I admire you. You know, like I just want to capture you and let you know that I care about you and I appreciate you. So, um, you know, I haven't always had like a smooth sailing relationship with my children. It has been a very rough, hard road. And a lot of it had to do with other people trying to circumvent me as a parent. And so the children were caught in the middle of that. But things are coming full circle. I'll just say that. Because, you know, a lot of times people will try to create confusion in the minds of children. And that's exactly, yes, I love first full circle too. There were narratives that were being created of me in my children's minds by adults. And it's a travesty because I withheld tons of information from my children growing up because I prioritized their mental and emotional well being when other people did not. So you can fuck with my kids mentally and emotionally, but that says to me that you really don't love them, that you have a hidden agenda, that you're all for self, that you like somehow want to like win the prize of having the kids you know, be on your side, you're the favorite parent or grandparent or whatever. That shit comes all full circle. You just keep being the kind, good person that you are, and everything will come full circle. Oh, all right, I'm about to call it a night. But the last two cards, Voodoo and Mature Man in the reverse. So this could definitely be baby daddy energy. Because voodoo does not have to come in the form of actual dolls and, you know, seances and, you know, candles and all that shit. You could just be a walking dark energy. You said facts. Voodoo is spirits. Child. I mean, I think that there's positive and negatives to any spiritual modality depending upon, you know, how the person, like their interpretation of it or whatever. Because I mean, African spirituality deals with spirits, they deal with ancestors, they deal with spirit guides. Um, you know, like anybody that isn't in a vessel is considered spirit. So I don't, you know, I'm not trying to correct you or anything, but for me personally, I don't totally agree with that only because, like, for instance, there's some great things about Buddhism. Um, you know, so you saw them creeping on walls. I don't like sometimes I think that those may be like entities, but it doesn't have to, you know, necessarily be like straight up. But you know, I mean, you know what you experienced, and I'm not going to ever downplay or diminish like your experiences, your downloads, what you get from spirit, because I don't want people doing that to me. So I just like I feel like I have my own opinions or whatever, but that's just my opinion. Everybody has an opinion like an asshole. So you know what? Really? But all right, y'all. Thank you all for hanging out with me. Thank you for the likes. We got 14K likes. I appreciate that. Thank you for the gifts. Thank you for trusting me with your energy. Come on. Here's one of them. The one with the big screechy bark. Say hi. This is Amber. Say hi, everybody. She has her little bangs. Say, the bang, the bang, the bang. Now Onyx wants to turn. Come here. Oh, you just want to run. Never mind. All right, y'all. See y'all later.